Good morning, day 221. It is a bright, sunshiny morning. We have a beautiful, bright sunrise. Just beautiful. The lake is very calm and still again. Dove into chapter 8 today of Luke chapter 8. And there's several stories and parables, per usual. And the one that really caught my attention was the parable of the lamp. And it's short but sweet and powerful, because that's what light is. Light is powerful. Once you even have just a little bit of light, it's no longer completely dark. Darkness kind of exists like in a vacuum. And as soon as you even have a little bit of light, you can see. And our eyes, even the way God designed our eyes, to be able to allow us to adjust to the light and see even more, even in dim light. It's kind of cool. But the parable of the lampstand, he's like, hello. And this is going to be me putting it in my common vernacular and speak. But you're not going to light a lamp and then put it under a bowl. Nobody does that. The light's so powerful, it's making me glow this morning. And put it under a lamp. No, people light lamps and put them on a table for, the house to have light, for people to walk in and see the light of the lamp and then see what's in the home. And then he says that is what light does. This is what understanding does. He starts to talk about, be careful how you hear. Be careful how you hear. Everything that's in the dark will eventually come into the light. That's how powerful light is. It might take some time. You might have to adjust your lights, your hearing, or your eyes, your sight. But eventually, that light gets everywhere and it exposes everything. And when we talk about, he's talking about knowledge and truth and his truth here. But as humans, and I think even the sunrise is a perfect example, and the sunset, that we need gradual light exposure. Like when you walk into just boom light, like I actually did just now, it's like, our eyes, don't have time to adjust. It can actually be harmful to be in too much light all at once and too powerful. And I think we get a lot of those similar analogies, even when the few times that God appears in person to people, like they can't handle it. It's too much. It's too powerful. It will kill them. The glory, the light, it's too much. But for this particular example, he's giving us a warning. Like, even those who listen may not really hear. And what little understanding they think they have will be taken away from them. So once you expose yourself to the light, and the truth gets into your heart, you've got to keep letting it do its work. There's a willing partnership with allowing the dark corners of your heart, your life, your mind, your memories, your everything to be brought out into the light. That's where freedom is. Anytime we're keeping something closed off, hidden, then it's got power over us and our lives. And it's hard to live fully in the light when we're intentionally keeping things hidden. We don't want other people to know our dirty laundry, our mistakes, our faults, our maybe secret longings or desires, like, oh, no, we don't want to let people know. But when you have that attitude, when you have that attitude, good morning. When you have that attitude, then something still has a hold of you. And so we have this little parable right on the heels of the parable of the seeds falling on, rock and or growing with thorns. So, and then we're told, hey, I'm going to be speaking in parables now because, again, those who have a heart to listen, who are willing to listen and let the light do its work, will get understanding. But those who don't and who are resistant, we're going to make it extra hard for them to understand. You've got to work at understanding. It's a partnership. And this is actually where growth happens, when you have a little bit of resistance and you've got to think and you've got to ponder and you've got to try to understand. I mean, that's how you really understand something, not just rote memorization. We learned that in school. People that just memorize things just to pass a test, hey, that's Old Testament stuff, right? That's what the Pharisees were doing. It wasn't working too well because they were missing the whole point of it. They weren't understanding. They weren't getting the exposure of the light. They weren't letting the light in. They were blocking it with their approach, with their logic, like we were talking about yesterday, how they were logically approaching things from just a human perspective. And Jesus is here to say, no, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to show you a new way. And you've got to be careful how you listen. And that's a part of what we were even talking about today. The logic that you're using, your starting point, your perspective, looking at the outcome, looking at the whole big picture, like we talked about 2 days ago. It all comes together. And when you're standing in the light and you're willing to be humble and expose everything, your understanding will also increase. Your knowledge will increase because you're actually experiencing and doing what Jesus is telling you to do. And then you're actually able to go and help others because you too know what it's like to suffer, to be humble, to try. He's not asking us for perfection at all. We can't be. And it's not about even being good. It is about understanding how good He is, how good light is, how good it is to be in the sun and in the light and to see and to understand and to bring others into the light so we can all live the way we're supposed to live. And that is powerful stuff. So we go straight from that parable into there's a couple of different stories. And one is a demon-possessed man. He goes into a land called, okay, wait a minute. Let me back up before we start to do that one. So he gets in the boat first. They go across the lake to this land called Gerasenes, I think is how it's pronounced. That's how I'm pronouncing it. But while they're in the boat, Jesus decides to take a nap. I think that's kind of cool. Like he's doing some self-care there. He's like tired. He's got to get ready. He's being mobbed everywhere he goes. He's, doing good works. And so he decides to take a nap in the boat. And then a storm comes, but it doesn't wake him up. The disciples are like, oh my gosh, it's storming. We need your help. They were getting very afraid. And so then they wake him up and he says, calm down. And the wind and the waves stop. And they were amazed. They were like, oh, who is this? Even the wind and the waves listen to his commands and obey them. And he goes, I think he goes back to sleep. And they're like, what? And the wind and the waves, even though Jesus does have power over them, it's also, I think, representative of our minds. Hey, good morning. When the waves and the storms come into our minds mentally, we also have the power. He just says, stop. There's a power in even saying, stop, and then saying your name, like interrupting your thoughts, like, ooh, don't let them overtake you. Don't let them fill your boat. Don't let it sink your boat. Tell them to stop. Like he's giving us a literal example and role modeling what to do. And you can just proclaim, like, stop. You can say out loud, stop, Felicia. And my thoughts will listen. They'll start to calm down because then I've interrupted that storm of thoughts. Okay, so there we get some practical help. That's shedding some light on something. That's shedding some understanding on the power that we have with our own minds and our thought life. You do not have to be a victim of life and the storms of life and even your thoughts. Like, the storms will come, but how you react to them, you have choice. You have choice. And those emotions and those thoughts can feel so powerful in the moment that you feel like you don't have choice and that you're a victim. But Jesus is showing us here, you do. And you can command them. So then we move. So they get to the other side of the lake. They arrive to this town. And I actually did have to get a little bit of help this morning because I was like, I don't fully understand this. So he encounters a man who is possessed by demons. And the demons recognize him immediately and says, no, Jesus, don't hurt us. You know, the man is completely like living in the wilderness, naked, crazy, totally possessed. And then he asks them their name. Well, at first we're told that it's kind of one spirit. Then they asked their name and they said, oh, it's Legion because there are many of us. And then we're told that there is a field of swine nearby and that the Legion, the group of demons that's possessing this man, says, instead of hurting us, why don't you let us go over into those pigs? And this was a detail I had not caught on because, you know, I'm not from that time. I didn't understand the significance of it, and I'm not a Jew. So the fact that there is a herd of swine tells us that he's in a Gentile area. So again, this is him coming and giving the good news to the Gentiles. So he's bringing light to people that haven't heard of this before and who aren't even familiar with God. So anyway, he does the casting out of the demons. They go into the swine, and then the swine take off running, and then they throw themselves into the water, down the hill, I think it said, and into the water, and then they drowned. And then the man who was saved, all of a sudden, we're told that he's clothed, he's sitting there at the feet of Jesus. He has been converted. He is now a believer and is sitting at the feet of Jesus, just grateful. He wants to actually join Jesus's troop. And he says, no, I want you to go home and tell everybody what God has done for you today. But the other townspeople were not so happy, which is really interesting. We don't usually get this reaction except from the Pharisees. But because we can probably put some of the pieces of the puzzle together, and that they were Gentiles and not believers and not familiar with any of this, and they were likely probably practicing pagan or polytheistic or, you know, different types of religions, they were not too happy that probably, number one of their sources of income just ran off and drowned itself. And the light that this was shedding into their own lives and their own religious practices and their own belief system, they were not too happy about that. And they were like, go away, we don't want you here. And he does go. So I think that's really interesting. And we don't know, I don't know that we'll find out what happens, but we're told back in the parable of the lamp that light eventually exposes and brings everything to the truth. So I can look back at that, and then we're given some clues at how to hear, how to read, how to listen as we go forward and read the rest of the parables and these stories, which is why we can go, oh, maybe he's not talking just about literal storms and controlling. Yes, he can do that, but what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? What is he telling me that I can do? What is sort of like wind and storms to the individual person on a regular day? Life, events of life. And then how our brain reacts to them, how our thoughts and how we react to them. And then depending on how we react, what we further bring into our lives and invite through consequences. And are you making wise choices or foolish choices, like we've been talking about? Is it fear-based or based in love? And then when you live this way, you may even be in the midst of non-believers. And what kind of light are you going to be? You're gonna maybe encounter people that aren't too happy that you're there. And you can react like Jesus did and go, okay, I'm here. I'm just here to share some light and some truth. And you leave it to them and let them do with it what they want, and you can leave. I think a lot of us, especially in the Christian world, think that it's our responsibility. We're responsible for everybody else's beliefs and how they think about Jesus, and we make it our responsibility. He's allowing everybody he encounters to have their own experience, to be where they are. And he's going to leave them knowing that the light, if they let it, will do its work. Will they put themselves under a bowl? Will they shut off the light? Keep themselves in darkness? This is where we as humans have free will. We have seeds that get planted in various ways. And if we do our job, I think I talked about that way back in Matthew, we're little plots of soil that nurture and receive the seeds and do that, we're going to have fruit, and it's going to multiply, and the light will come in and do its job. If photosynthesis happens, like the whole process interacting together. Or we can be like the things that choke out the world when we let the storms of life overtake us, or let ourselves be consumed with materialism and acquisition of things and power and status and all of that. But as you sit and hear and really listen, the light will slowly start to turn on inside of you, and it will shine in your own internal dark corners. And you can safely bring it into the light gradually, maybe not all at once. That shatters our identity. Light can work its way gradually and eventually. And that's exactly, Jesus is also reassuring us that with the parable of the lamp. Eventually. So I think some of us want to also rush too hard, too fast, and our identity gets shattered. And that's where we were like, oh, this is too much. And then we turn back to the world. So follow Jesus's lead. Hey, good morning. All right. Well, I think hopefully the light, you'll let the light, wherever you are on your faith walk or in your evolution. And I, of course, am reading the Bible, so I'm talking about God. That's my point of view and my worldview. But you could take that and substitute whatever word works for you right now. But I do encourage you to let the light do its job. Be open. When we are closed off and we think we know it all, and me, even as a Christian, and the Bible is my foundation, I don't shut myself off. And I'm not afraid of other ideas and other philosophies, because you know who created all of it? God. And so, anyway, let the light of love into your heart, into your life, and slowly allow it to do its job of dim, dim, bright, bright, bright. All right. Rise and shine, my friends. Have a great day wherever you are, whatever season, whatever day it is, whatever weather. You have control of how you react and how you show up. All right. Bye.